Sign. We're grateful that you came out. About 2 hours ago, I was on a phone call with Republican House and Senate staffers. My name is Ed Martin. I was once a member of the Republican National Committee 2013 to 2015, so I know exactly how this apparatus works. I am a Republican. I worked a poll in the Commonwealth of Virginia on Election Day all day long. Ed Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. I'm the president of Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, her organization. But here's what happened 2 hours ago. On a call with staffers, with the Republican staffers in the House and Senate, I did what we're doing right here, which is Americans across the country. Yesterday, a Facebook page we maintained started with 2,000 people. It exploded to 250,000 people. Stop the steal, do your job. Stop the steal, do your job. Republican elected officials have benefited from what Donald Trump did on Tuesday, his victory in the election, in two concrete ways. Number one, for years now, this building has garnered hundreds of millions of dollars using his name. They have raised hundreds of millions of dollars using his name. And they have done that intentionally. They have done it on purpose, and they have done it with his permission. But that has been their benefit. The second thing that they did, it was on Tuesday, there were coattails across the country. There were coattails in the House and Senate races because of Donald Trump's policies, growing the Republican Party to include working families, people of color, all different kinds of folks. These people in office benefited, the Republicans. Again, I'm a Republican. And we're gathered here today, like I said on that conference call, Republican leaders, elected officials must do their job and stop the steal. They must do their job and stop the steal. All from Ronna McDaniel at the RNC, Kevin McCarthy at the NRCC, and Emmert at the NRCC. Come on up, guys. And over in the Senate side, from McConnell and Cornyn, all those people need to step up and do their job. Because the American people, tens of millions of us, have seen what the benefit received by those elected officials, and this is much bigger than the Tea Party. This is much bigger than a wing of the Republican Party. This is a movement of Americans, and we want our Constitution and we want our founding values to be respected. And those values are, for our friend here that wants to say we count every vote, we count every legal vote. We have the rule of law. And what we're seeing now in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Arizona is a violation of not only the law, but the spirit of America. And back to my point, we're not asking right here for more patriots to gather. We know how we're going to do that. We're asking these men and women, Republican senators, Republican congressmen and women, to do their job and stop the steal. In Pennsylvania, the senator should step up. In Wisconsin, the senator should step up. The leadership, it has to happen. And if they don't do it, the party will suffer broadly, and individually candidates will not have the support of people that care. So we have to have that. We need them to do their job and stop the steal right now. Right now, and this president has earned it. We the people have earned it, and across the country we're seeing more folks. So it is around the country. Just now as I came over, they're going to have a rally in Milwaukee, I think one was called. Across, as I mentioned, this is bigger than the Tea Party because it's focused on how we can succeed as a nation. The Tea Party got fractured by all kinds of debates and fights, but this is what we have. So we're happy you're here. We've got all these folks that are going to be coming and gathering and being a part of this. So I guess I'll take your questions if somebody has a question, except the Code Pink lady. Any questions?
What makes a legitimate vote?
Any questions?
What is their job?
What is what job?
What is their job?
Their job is to stand up. Right, thank you. Great point. The Republican leadership and elected officials should publicly say right now, every one of them, that they want the steal to stop. They want the vote to be counted, legal votes counted, but the rest of the gamesmanship. We have Democrat officials throwing Republican watchers out of polling places. Every congressman should object. Every senator should object. They should be in front of the camera like the governor of Wisconsin, the Democrat partisan hack governor who sat in front of a camera today and said his state went for Biden. His state didn't go for Biden. It's in a recount. And the Republicans need to stand up and say, not in our America. And I don't care if you're a senator from Montana or you're a senator from Texas or from Pennsylvania, Georgia, where there's more dispute. Every Republican should step up because this is a battle about the future of our country. If the game plan that was executed by the losing party, Joe Biden, is allowed to stand, then the country, the republic, we won't have a function. Let me say a word about the media. It's absolute disgrace that Fox News is currently showing an electoral count for Biden that includes Arizona. Arizona's not been decided. Wisconsin's not been decided. All these states. We're watching a mainstream media, including Fox, I put them right in there with them, joining together to get us to a result that is based on something other than the truth. So Republican senators, Republican congressmen, members of the RNC should right now say, we won't stand for this. We won't stand for the American people to be told something that's not true. We won't stand for the American people to be told that somehow they're supposed to listen to the same people who went about telling us the polls meant X for months. And making people think, well, how could Trump win? He's down by 10, he's down by 12. The pollsters were either liars or incompetent, and I have my own theory. I don't think they were incompetent. I think exactly what they're doing. And the last thing I'll say, and before we'll let you go, or take another question, but the coup that was attempted by the Steele dossier and the Russia hoax, which was executed by all sorts of folks in this town, failed. At least it failed while he was in office. If this election's allowed to stand, it's another coup that's meant to dissuade the American people from our vote, because on Tuesday and on Wednesday morning, Donald Trump won the election. And now we're fighting through this media effort to change America. We won't stand for it. And these men and women in the Republican Party, we're here for them now. The Republican National Committee, the NRCC, they must stand up. If they won't stand up, the American people will remember it, will notice it, and will remember it. But if they do, they'll be just like those men and women that fought in the early years of our founding when everyone said, oh no, that's too much trouble. Valley Forge, it's a bit of a hassle, all that. They'll be the heroes if they want to do it. And if they don't, America will notice. Another question?
What
yes,
signs are you seeing that the RNC is not throwing enough support behind Trump right now in the election?
All I'm seeing is we ought to see more public support by the Republican National Committee. We ought to see more public support by all the members. The number of people, and may not know this, there's 168 members of the RNC, 3 from every state plus the territories. They all should be out publicly saying this is a steal. They're stealing the election. Where's Kevin McCarthy? Kevin McCarthy should have been on the steps of the Capitol already with a press conference saying, you grew my caucus by 10 or 11 members, therefore I'm standing with you, Mr. President, against this steal. And Mitch McConnell, who I salute for his work on judges, he won his race and others won their races because of this president. We'll thank them for it, but they're missing in action today. They ought to be on Fox. Paul Ryan is on the board of Fox. Paul Ryan should be out in front of Fox saying, I don't know why they're doing it like this. I'm only one member. The other 4 are voting me out. But I've told them how wrong this is, and he's nowhere to be found. He's sitting on millions of dollars of his campaign fund in his home in Maryland. And I can only say, when people are missing in action, you wonder if they're really on your side.
Sir, how can the American people hold these networks accountable for making such egregiously wrong calls?
Well, the first thing that we have to do is realize that what we're being told is not true, and therefore we have to not stand for it. So you have to migrate to other places to get your information. But in the short term, this is the battle. I just had someone call me, one of our Eagle leaders in the state. They said, but in Nevada, they may call this race. And I said, stop watching the news. They're going to lie to you. In the long run, we're going to have to build our own media outlets.
Why did Fox News call Arizona immediately so early? Why did CNN call Trump for Virginia?
Well, I know the answers. Here's a different way to say that question. Why did the media outlets wait to call Texas when everyone in America that knows politics knows there was not a race there? That's the spin that the Democrats did to pretend they were going to compete there. Or Florida. They waited hours for Florida, and yet as soon as something happens, they go Biden. Look, all I'm saying is the same thing they did with the Russia hoax. Van Jones on CNN. I was a contributor at CNN for 6 months. Van Jones on CNN on election night. He said, they're trying to disenfranchise and suppress the vote. And Rick Santorum said, they're asking for poll watchers. The media is using their power to try to persuade the American people to something that isn't true, and we can't stand for it. And we have a constitution, by the way, that has a check and a balance. When the states are corrupt, we don't seat their electors. And that's it. And when the states are corrupt, we go to court and say, you can't do this. And that's where we're headed. So, but again, the message today, I hope you take it, is do your job. These men and women in office, or Republicans in office, we will not tolerate the people that decide that they are, fading because they won their race or they've moved on. We won't tolerate
Or
it.
'cause they
It's
believe
too
in
much.
it
It's
counting
too much.
every
It's too
vote.
much. It's too much.
What's going on in Pennsylvania right now?
Well, in Pennsylvania right now, we have election officials that my sense is that they're trying to exclude transparency, poll watchers, and now the Democrats are in the Supreme Court saying we don't want to have poll watchers of both parties of Pennsylvania. So now we have a partisan Pennsylvania court that is about to make a decision that says we can exclude poll watchers. Again, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania. It should have been called already, and the rest of this is, I was the chairman of the Board of Elections in St. Louis City. I know exactly how the RNC works. I was a member. I know how the election board works. You can keep managing an election and finding votes or throwing them out until you win. That's what Pennsylvania is trying to do. Yes, sir.
The Constitution allows for post-office impeachment. That is to say, you can impeach a public official after they have left office. I think we should do that. For example, Joe Biden said he wants to put Barack Obama on the Supreme Court. The purpose of doing this would be to take away their retirement and to keep them from ever having public office again. So if our Republicans, have some balls, maybe they can start impeaching.
Well,
Obama, but more importantly,
There's-
Joseph Biden for his great crimes against everyone here by all of his
listen, there's plenty of options to talk about, but today what we're talking about is an election that's about to be stolen, the election that Donald Trump won, and what has to happen is every Republican at every level, congressmen, congresswomen, senators, leadership, rank and file, state house, elected officials, Republicans have to stand up and say, we're going to do our job and stop the steal. And back to someone's point, there's plenty that a congressman can do with one letter and a stroke of his pen or a press conference or coming out forcefully to get their state to do the right thing. It has to be done. It's a betrayal of we the people if they don't do it. And by the way, all across the country, this is happening. You're going to find a renewed focus on the heroes of the Wisconsin legislature, Michigan legislature, where they're going to have to stand up to the corruption too, the Republicans. Yes, sir.
Is there any legal or constitutional recourse to the possibility that there is a misvote, that the entire vote is invalidated on the basis that it has been...
I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Okay.
We got to talk after. I'm not sure. It depends on the state. I don't know what your misvote means. Certainly, again, what we see now is the Democrats and the left in office changing the rules of the game and using their influence to change the vote tally. If you run an election board, the one thing you have to do, if you have any integrity, is set the rules, let everybody know what they are, and judge by the rules. And just like we saw in each of these states, we're seeing happen in other places. They're doing it in Georgia now. And again, you cannot run this great American republic if you have people who believe you just change the rules to get in power. We the people spoke. These men and women, Republicans in office, need to have their voice respected and the rule of law honored, and we expect them to do it. We're excited about it. They're going to do it.
What about Georgia? What's going on in Georgia?
I don't know any more specific than what you've seen. I know there's lots of questions. The Trump campaign knows they won Georgia, they won North Carolina. It should have been called ages ago, and they won Pennsylvania. And it's this. The whole thing is a managed operation by the campaign and by the media to try to change the election. So again, yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
So you believe that Trump won because he went on and said he won? Is that what makes
No,
you...
of course not. What a silly question.
No.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that the fake news, that's the kind of thing you
Yeah.
say.
No,
Nobody knows.
what's it
Nobody
predicated
knows.
on?
Your question is so
What's it
silly.
predicated
You
on?
should. You're not even a journalist. You must be
Right.
You must be with this lady over here.
Fake news.
What a silly
Yeah,
question.
lady
What
over
a silly
here.
question.
Yeah, with the feminists over
Where's the
here.
fraud? Where's the
We are
fraud?
over here.
All you have to do is ask a few questions of people that voted. They say in Arizona they were given the wrong implement. Excuse me?
You're a she. You're a
No,
she.
ask people anywhere that there's been a problem, and you get lots of answers.
Okay,
And more
it's a
importantly,
scam.
every
You're a
election
she.
has
You're a
fraud.
she.
You think no elections have fraud? Everyone does. The question is whether it's a big enough fraud to swing the election, and I think we're finding out that that's what they're trying to do.
If you had a chance to speak directly with Mitch McConnell
Yeah.
or Kevin McCarthy, what would you say to them?
Well, I texted Kevin McCarthy a few minutes ago. I would say what I said to him there is the grassroots in this country, we the people, Mr. Speaker to be and Mr. Majority Leader, we need you to step up and lead. We need you to come publicly with your caucuses. Again, the senators and the House members benefited in two dramatic ways by this president. Number one, he raised them hundreds of millions of dollars. He supported their efforts, allowed them to do incredibly successful things as part of policy. And number two, his coattails were monstrous. The coattails were ones that carried Lindsey Graham and carried Susan Collins and carried all these House members. Kevin McCarthy is almost Speaker because of Donald Trump. And now the president and we the people need them to come out. If right now, if Kevin McCarthy had his caucus on the steps of the Congress and said, here we are, we believe in the president, stop the steal, it would stop like that. The same thing with McConnell, and we just need them to do it. They're honorable men. I'd like to see them do it, and we're asking them to do it right now, to do their job and stop the steal. One more question. Anybody?
Stop the steal!
Okay,
Stop
sorry.
the steal!
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Do your job! Do your job!
Do your job! Do your job! Do your job! Do your job! Do your job!
Do your job! Good job. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. All right, guys, that's good. Thank you all for coming. Ed Martin. Ed Martin. Village Schlafly Eagles. Village Schlafly organization. It used to be called Eagle Forum. Village Schlafly Eagles.
I can keep it. Are you collecting?
Keep that. No, you can have it.
Thank you so much. No, thank you so much.
His name, Ed Martin.
Ed Martin.
We don't want to be.
Hi, buddy.
I'm not communist, and this is a soft coup.
Sorry about intruding on your space.
That's something that.
Forget about that. A world-class runner. I mean, this is like a hero. A really great job. The only thing better than you, you should have said it. No, you
We've been out on social media and been talking to our supporters, our voters all over the country. But you're right, because the leaders, the one like Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, but I'm like, McCarthy came out one that I didn't watch because I turned the news on.